designer, GDC Advisory Board member, man about town, gadfly, pundit, hothead speaker. I could go on, and I guess I'm going to have to until he's ready to talk. And Chris is here. Are you going to explain the award that you're giving out?
No.
All right. So
I'm going to explain it.
All right. Take it away, Chris Hecker.
This is my rant, but of course, as Eric just foreshadowed, we have a piece of business first. And so the Duct Tape Award is given to the best rant of the previous year, and we have all decided, which is to say that I decided, that Scott John Siegel was the best rant. So Scott, get up here.
Scott John Siegel delivered a scathing critique of the innovation in social games. Scott, I just want to present you with your Duct Tape Award sash. Thank you very much. And all of our, thank you, yes. Look forward to next year if you do well.
Thanks everyone for the opportunity to be here and briefly break my New Year's resolution and share the stage with Frank Lance, who is one of the fathers of my game design career, so that's really tremendous. So last year I attacked social game developers, and this year I've actually decided to attack myself. So this is me on stage last year before giving my rant. I'm a pretty awkward kid in general, so sharing the stage with such incredible people really didn't help that. But nonetheless, I was up there, I said some things on stage that people actually seemed to respond really positively to. And in 6 minutes, I went from feeling kind of awkward to feeling kind of a little less awkward, right? But you know what? Fuck that. I mean, in all seriousness, I'm not in this industry to talk and to feel like Kanye West, or, you know, I'm in this industry to make games, which is why these are actually the only 2 minutes that I'm spending on stage this year, because it's always easier to talk than act, and I've gotten into a really bad habit of over-talking and under-acting, and I really, really need to stop. I need to stop telling independent developers to take risks, when actually the biggest risk that I've taken in my career is leaving one very large company for another very large company for another very large company. And I need to stop telling people to make passion projects when the last time I put something personal out into the world was 2008, and it wasn't even something that I was really proud of. And over the last few years, I've actually spent more of my free time making slides about making games than I have actually making games. I really miss my craft, and discussing my passion is not the same thing as performing it, which brings me to my New Year's resolution. I need to relearn how to love my craft, and that means that I need to shut up for a while, at least until I have something that's worth saying or something that's worth playing. Because ultimately, talk is cheap, and it's high time I just shut up and dance. So, thank you, Eric, Jason, and Chris for this honor. Thank you, everyone, for letting me rant briefly. Now, if you don't mind, I have some games to make. If we ever had a duct tape winner be the duct tape winner the next year? Alright, let's see. So here's my rant. It's called the Dysfunctional Three-Way. This is actually this is a picture of an experimentalist play by Samuel Beckett called Play, which I've never actually seen, but I read the Wikipedia entry, so this is maybe more appropriate. And in fact, you can search it. There's a lot of Kirk, Spock, McCoy / fiction out there, and that kind of led me to this picture, which I think is a lot more appropriate. But first, of course, my yearly tradition. Please feel free to quote from this rant, but please don't quote this rant out of context. It will probably be easy to take a snippet of something out of here and make me look like an asshole, but I will do a plenty fine job of making myself look like an asshole with the context as well, so just contextualize it, please. Who in the room knows what this is? Alright, so who under 40 knows what this is? Okay. How can there be more people under 40 who know what it is than know what it is? Alright, you guys need to learn math. Alright, so the first and most important thing when you think about a three-way is you have to figure out who's in the three-way, right? So in this three-way is developers, players, and press.
And as soon as I say that, you can all think of the various ways this three-way goes. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of that and critique each one of these. And I want to make a warning, the next few slides, it's there's that big game design rant button in the PowerPoint, wizard, and you just push it and it generates a bunch of crappy slides for you. The next few slides are kind of like that because some of these things have been talked about already. I've talked about these things. It's really tired. And they're also overly general. There are exceptions to everything I'm about to say on the next little section. But it is just that. They are exceptions, and I think that's important. The truth is there, the majority of what I'm about to say I think is in general true. So, all right. Let's talk about players. Now, you might think that I'm going to say, something like this or something like this is the problem with players. And while those are problems, those aren't what I think is the core problem with players these days. What I think the core problem with players these days is that they buy the same games and anticipate the same games and read about the same games and talk about the same games over and over and over and over and over again. And this even happens in places that are a little bit more erudite, like intellectual, this is Quarter to Three, Tom Schick's awesome forum. And after the Double Fine Adventure thing, there was a thread that was like, what would you fund on Kickstarter? What a great new funding opportunity. And I went to the thread with interest, people can fund anything they want. What would they fund? And every single thing in the 5 or 10 page thread was a sequel. It was, I really need Wizardry 9. That's this new funding thing has really enabled that. So the press, now, you might also think that I might want to think everything should be all lit gritty and, that, or I bemoan the cosplay galleries. And while those, I think there are things to talk about there, that also is not the main problem. I think the main problem is that during the preview stage and the review stage, during previews, there was a Borderlands 2 trailer that came out, and the website, the news sites did a frame-by-frame breakdown of which weapons are in there, which new spells, which new skills. Oh, that UI button moved a couple pixels to the left. Or during this Black Ops review, the good is a big, long list of thrilling variety of gameplay, and the bad was a short campaign. The bad wasn't that you bought the same fucking game 6 months previously. What the fuck? So developers, and of course I've ranted about developers for years. We're just strip mining the exact same plot of land deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth. Why is this fucking guy steaming? Isn't that the kind of thing you think is cool in 9th grade and you're drawing in your fucking notebook? Why is he steaming? That's idiotic. And it's not, Jesus Christ. Okay, so there's a common denominator here between all three of these people, and all these three groups in the three-way, and it's, and I've come up with a phrase for it, and it's an appetite for sameness. And I think the word appetite here is really important. It's not a tolerance for sameness. It's not like there's the same thing and we put up with it begrudgingly. It's we actively seek it out. We try and make it. We try and buy it. We talk about it a lot. We want to report on it. We have this appetite for the same thing over and over again. And I really don't understand it. It feels really foreign to me. And I don't mean I don't understand it I heard this thing that I didn't quite understand. I mean I really, no, I actually don't understand something that is apparently a fundamental truth of the art form I've chosen to work in. I don't get it. And in fact, I don't get it to the level where I feel slightly insane when I talk to people. And it's not actually funny. It's feeling like you're slightly insane is not a fun thing. It might be funny to watch someone feel like they're slightly insane, but the actual feeling itself is kind of painful. I'll talk to people at the GDC or something, peers, smart, creative people, and they're not understanding why I'm complaining about this stuff. And I feel almost this crazy, which brings us back to this. I'll play a snippet of this. They're laughing at him too. For truth! For guilty! For us! That's Sid Meier right there. So this is 1992, and this is a thing called the Dragon Speech by Chris Crawford, and he basically left the industry. He was so fed up and so disappointed by the kind of arc of video games that he felt like he had to actually leave the industry. And sadly, he kind of left the industry into nowhere land and kind of never produced anything ever again. He tried and failed, and he admits that he failed. he spends a lot of time in the dragon speech, which is a really great speech. It's on YouTube. You should go watch it if you want to be incredibly depressed. He spends a lot of time talking about Don Quixote, and in fact, he asked Sancho Panza for his sword at the beginning of that clip. I don't know if you noticed. And he talks about how Don Quixote was basically crazy, right? But he had this reality that he wanted to be the fact, and couldn't reconcile that with the real reality, and so he projected it on there. You know, windmills became dragons. We all know the stories. And Chris would say, like, you know, I admit Don Quixote was crazy, and he's, you know, I'm not that crazy, but I can empathize with how he felt. And I realized as I was watching the dragon speech that I was like, you know, Chris Crawford's crazy, but I'm not that crazy, but I can kind of see how he feels, and I can empathize. And I'm sure someone out there is like, that Chris Hecker guy's a little bit crazy, but I can kind of empathize with the things he's talking about, and it's just all the way down. So back to the three-way. The thing about it is we're all somehow reactive. I don't know how this is topologically possible for all of us to be simply reactive in this loop. It's like kind of like when you were a kid and you were like, what if I plugged one end of the extension cord into the other end? Will the electricity just go around and around? And no, it doesn't. This man has a very large glass Klein bottle. We all need to be proactive. And what does this mean? So players, you have to request and purchase true variety. Variety is not a turret mission in the middle of your FPS. Like, real variety in the world. You're the body of our industry. Like, you feed your body healthy, varied food to keep it healthy. Like, you have to consume and desire a wide variety of things. The press, you play all the games. You have the 50,000-foot view on our industry. You have to provide that context. You have to say, did we need another one of these games? You have to hold players and developers accountable. You're kind of the conscience of our industry. And for developers, there's this truism in development where, all the best studios, in fact, say we make games we want to play. We all have heard this a million times before, right? Well, can you please want to make more varied games? We want to play more varied games. Make the games you want to play. Want to play more different games. We're the heart and the mind of the industry, and they're not. The other two groups aren't going to make the games. We have to do this. And so, I'm not predicting doom for the industry. I didn't get to show my kids, so this is my daughter. I'm not predicting doom for the industry. We make tons of money, right? We're fine. But I was reading this article in Harper's Magazine about 10 years ago, and it was about biodiversity. And the article started out, it was a really fascinating article, and it was saying, why should you care about conservation? Why should you care about biodiversity? And the reason is not because the human race will end if there's no biodiversity. That's actually just false. We're what's known in science as a weedy species. Other examples of weedy species are kudzu, Norway rats, cockroaches, pigeons, those kinds of things. We can live at all latitudes, we can live at all altitudes. Like, we will survive. But the problem is, if it's just us and the kudzu and the rats, like, that's so fucking boring. That's the reason for variety. Thank you very much.
Next up is Jade Raymond. Jade's currently the general manager of the Ubisoft Toronto studios. Previously was at Ubisoft Montreal, worked on the Assassin's Creed franchise.
Stop now.
Thank you.